let's talk about the stress created by this financial situation. And I see it as being two different areas. There are, obviously the stress level has come off a little bit as the market has risen here recently.
It's a little bit off the threshold.
Right, it's past the, go hang myself kind of that we experienced back in January. But it's clearly still there.
Sure.
And I see two different scenarios. I see a group of people who are in dire financial trouble.
Sure.
They were, Warren Buffett has a saying, when the tide goes out, you find out who's swimming naked.
Right,
they were naked, the tide went out, and they are in big trouble now.
Yeah.
But there is also another group of people who really aren't in financial trouble per se, but the situation creates stress and anxiety anyway about, well, I'm not now, but will I be? How do we deal with that?
The way I like to work with clients on that is, of course, to customize it to fit them specifically, but here's a list of things that one can do. The most important thing is to take care of yourself during these times. What does that mean? Mind, body, spirit. Okay, so body, exercising. Use that outlet to get sort of that extra anxious energy, if you will, in the body out.
So I shouldn't spend my entire day sitting in front of Fox News.
There you go. And that, by the way, is one of the very first ones. Fox, you're fine, however, but the point is listen, I have to keep up with items, obviously, especially as an executive level coach. But I make a rule that I learn enough to what I need to know of what's happening out there, and then that stuff is turned off. I mean, here's the true test to me. Get in touch with how you're feeling when you're watching it. If you're in joy, go for it. I'm feeling you're not.
Right.
So if you're starting to get depressed and anxious and oh my gosh and fear, then it's not serving you.
What about, for a while anyway, the economy, the loss of jobs, the deficit spending, the election, it's all people talked about.
Right.
Helpful?
Not really. I mean, we know that exists. So my point is, information is about when you don't know something. Okay, we now know that. So rather than hearing it over and over and over and over again, do you know it anymore? No, you still know that. So let's move beyond the knowledge. We have the knowledge. Now it's what am I choosing to do around that? And here's the other thing. When you look at these times, people have that tendency to immediately look at the negative side of that. To me, there is a huge silver lining to this.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Oh my gosh, there's a huge silver lining to this because it is, to me, it's sort of right-sizing things. It's getting back to what's really important. And do I really need 5 cars? People make their own decisions. I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying it begins to get back to what's really, really important. And those that have been through this journey, maybe they've lost a lot and they've come back and they're like, okay, I'm getting my footing again. They'd be the first people to tell you that what I discovered was most important was my health and my family and my friends. At the end of the day, when you're laying on that hospital bed and it's towards the end, I don't know anyone that says I should work harder or that I should have more stuff. Every time you add stuff, you have to insure it, you have to maintain it, you have to preserve it. There's work associated around all of that. And so simplifying your life's important. And so this is creating a lot of people to think about that for perhaps the first time. And that's an ego hit. It's an ego hit for a lot of people because many people get caught into the trap of keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. But then the dirty little secret is that the Joneses were hurting as much as you were.
Yes.
And now this has become a race no one can win. So it is an absolute opportunity to get back to what's really important and focus on that. And what don't I need? Simplify your life. And that's, to me, the beauty of all of this.
Yes. In fact, I am giving a speech, as you know, in July to the National Speakers Association, the title of which is Don't Waste This Crisis.
Oh, that's great.
Because
it's perfect.
What we know is that, I know personally, and we know, countless examples, that crisis is most often transformational.
Absolutely.
And that the meaningful changes in our life almost always come as a result of crisis. So here we are. You have this tremendous opportunity. Don't waste
Perfect.
it. Right? Let's use this as a time to identify what works, what doesn't work, shed what's not working, and really get back to the things that are.
Here's another thing about that I find very interesting. And I started to think about this ironically looking at a flower one day. So I'm not trying to be weird about this, but really here's the truth. Everything through time, the law of nature is what happens. You plant a seed, that flower grows, it's a bud, that bud opens to a full flower, and then what happens? That full flower does drop, it dies, in order for there to be space for the next bud to come, right? That's the way of the universe. That's nature. So why do we keep thinking that year after year after year we're going to have higher profits, higher profits, higher profits, higher profits, without there being some leveling off at some point to kind of regroup, re-energize, rethink, re-strategize? I mean, that's where innovation has come from.
Yes.
We wouldn't be where we are today if, now the pain of that is there are organizations, I'm thinking in a business context for a moment, but there are companies or even industries that had to close in order for there to be room for something else.
Yes.
That's progress. Now, if you're on the progress side, that's fun, and when you're not, it's not fun. But that again goes back to that is sort of how this goes, and for us to continually think there's never going to be a leveling off at some point before maybe the next boost. That's kind of crazy thinking when you really think about it.
It's delusional.
Yeah, it is. Very delusional.
Yeah. It would be nice, but that's just not the way the world works. Yes.
And we've all kind of got caught into that. It's like, well, now that I make this much money, I can afford these things. Well, wait a minute. What are you saving for your future? How are you paying yourself back? I mean, where's the nest egg that you need to create? You're just spending. And on what? Stuff. And that stuff's going to go away one day. It's not what's going to matter.
Which is interesting. It takes us really a little bit back to a point that you made about how to deal with stress is to take care of yourself.
Right.
And I would argue that part of that is not just mind, body, spirit, but money.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it's the biggest piece.
And clearly, if you have done the right things, if you will do the right things, right? And that means maybe foregoing what you want today. So for the important things later down the road, that stress, when the tide goes out, you're not swimming naked. Take care of those things now, and perhaps now this is an opportunity to really get people to focus on that.
Boy, that's true. I mean, it's funny because my husband and I talked about this, and we probably by some people's standards, we're pretty conservative. And what I mean by that is our house is paid for, our cars are paid for. I mean, we're not into that, the latest, greatest. And I'm not condemning that. For certain people, that's real important. I'm just saying it's during these times that you begin to do the self-assessment and that introspection work to really say, what do I really want? Am I really happy? Has it bought me happiness? I'm going to guess not. Usually it buys burden.
Yes.
Really.
Stress.
But right now, with all of this going on, we're fine.
Yeah.
Because we know where we are and we know what we've done investment-wise to be sure that we're going to be fine.
The most important question, I believe, for the family CFO is what if?
Yeah, that's
what
right.
What if? This,
exactly.
You can't pretend. And I got to say that my husband is much better at that question than I am because I tend to be an eternal optimist. And he is much more of a well, he was an actuary, so he knows the odds of all these terrible things happening. But
that's right.
But even for me,
it takes both.
It does. It takes both. But what if you were to lose your job? What if you were to become disabled? What if you were needing to take time off to care for someone in your family? What if you just wanted to go backpack around Europe for a year or two?
Oh, that's so true.
Could you do those things? And is that important enough for you to take the steps today?
That's so cool you say that because I've had so many people come to me and say, gosh, how did you build this business? You've had your business 17 years. You've gone through obviously all these weird cycles when you think about the economy and everything else. And how did you do that? And I said, well, first of all, it's a step at a time. But the other thing that I try to share with people is that I made sure before I started that I felt like I was in a position to be able to risk a year of no business coming in, right? I mean, so we were very conservative with our spending and we were very careful with where we saved and where we put our money and we invested it so that we felt like I now have the freedom to go out and start a business because I'm not debt burdened, right? And some people today aren't there. And so it limits your personal freedom. And who wants that, right? They want choice, especially today.
Very good. Yes. I think it's been a wonderful conversation.
Absolutely, I loved it.
I'm sure that our listeners and our viewers will enjoy it as well. So again, Susan Steinbrecher, author of Heart-Centered Leadership, executive coach, CEO and founder of Steinbrecher.
That's all the same.
Right, CEO and founder of Steinbrecher and Associates.
Thank you.